recording, yeah. Okay. Right, we're on now. Yeah. So holistic assessment is basically looking at it from a work-based point of view, because it's easier to explain that way. Person may be doing a specific job of work, whether it's typing notes on a typewriter or strangling some pipework to get it into a shape to meet a drawing. But it's a specific task. Now, the units within the qualification that those people are doing will have some parts of that in them, other than the actual unit that you're meant to be covering. So you don't actually go out to cover a particular unit. You go out to look at what the job of work is, and then look at what criteria and which parts of the unit are covered by that job. It saves you going out to the place several times, just trying to cover one piece of input, one piece of evidence at the time. It just takes far too long. So basically, you try and cover whatever the job determines that you're going to cover. And what I used to do is sit with the learner first, and we'd look at the job, and we'd determine which units were going to come out of it, so that the learner actually then knows exactly what they're covering and where they're up to with the qualification, and then what sort of jobs they will need to cover parts that hasn't covered. Yeah. Is that?
Yeah, that's clear. That's
clear.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's all about collecting evidence from the job, rather than in our terms, the way we work, it's which tasks, and this is why you'll get some work to do that will not follow the learning objective.
Yeah.
It will just be a task that's given, and you will work through that task to cover various parts of the qualification. And it's much more efficient, because again, you're not going backwards and forwards,
Yeah.
just to collecting. As another example, I did a qualification 20 years ago now. I'd already got assessor qualifications and IQA, but they wanted specific assessment qualifications for key skills or core skills, maths, English and IT. And I had to go through a program of work to actually get that qualification added to my assessor qualification, so that I could assess in those three areas, up to level 3. Now, the assessor that we had came from a private company, and he came from a retail background, and he didn't understand holistic assessment at all. Yeah. And I told him, I'm not producing little pieces of evidence just to complete bits of evidence. Doing that, I'll look at what I do, and I'll show you the evidence that I produced during that work. And he couldn't get his head around it at first, but it ended up, my boss at the time was going through the same qualification.
Yeah.
And she ended up with a paperwork portfolio with 208 pieces of evidence.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I had 75.
Yeah.
But it covered the same work, and I had to explain it to him in minor detail, and he was like shocked. He'd never come against it before.
Yeah.
Well, this is it, yeah. And there's also from there on strengths and limitations of the way or the different methods that can be used. And again, if you've got learners with particular needs or requirements, you've got to consider how you can help meet these needs. So it's always checked with your organisation what you can and can't do, as you may need approval to make reasonable adjustments for those learners.
Yeah, yeah.
Quite often, it's something straightforward. But again, I've been assessing a long time now, and it's not really very often that you meet somebody with particular needs. Sometimes the only one we usually get is when you've got a learner that's enrolled, say, on a level 3 course, and you find that the English is about E3, and they can't manage the work. So what you do then is refer them to the key skills or the core skills learning section and get them to do that qualification first, so that they'll then be able to cope with the work and be able to produce the evidence that they need to for the qualification they want to do. So that's the only thing, but it's not something that I would have to do different for them. I just have to refer them to elsewhere. Some obviously training establishments have people work, kids working with children working with special needs and things like that, where specific areas have to be covered for different ones, because they're all got different disabilities, if you like, that need to be catered for. So what I'm suggesting is that you take it that one of your learners has got a prescriptive problem, and then you explain then in your work how you have dealt with that problem. So
things like differentiating between like, for example, someone who's got a good level of English and then someone who's got a basic level of English, trying to accommodate the assessment around them.
But that's an extreme case, actually. The only ones I've had specifically, I had one student who had dyslexia, and I had to get advice on what to do and what resources were available to actually help that learner. And I got out of that one fairly well by somebody else telling me what to do. But again, I had a learner who has, like me, or a lot more severe hearing problem. And I was able then to use my own experience from not hearing very well to assist them and to use different methods to actually gather information from them.
So we could use an example as one of the learners having some problems in regards to English, and then we could make reasonable adjustments for that person to meet their specific needs. Or refer them to basic skills, maybe.
Well, that actually doesn't cover what you need to do, because obviously you're going to pick two students. What you've got to decide is what's wrong with one of them, if you understand me. And then you use that in to show how you've coped with that situation. I've got some examples here. Adapting and providing resources, adapting environment for learner who is physically disabled, others that have dyslexia, arranging such as British Sign Language with somebody who's partially deaf, changing the date or time for a learner who works shifts, liaising with others who can offer advice regarding financial concerns and things like that. Those are just some general examples I put in to help.
What about, like, the increase of font sizes as well if they're visually impaired?
Anything like that. There are a whole host of things.
And that is task 1, and this is task 1 and 2, so it covers that.
Again, providing specialist support staff to improve their English or maths or whatever. Providing assessment information in an alternative format, spoken instead of written, for a learner with impaired vision. Using a different location, which is more accessible to learners who have to travel a long way. Using different assessment activities to suit individual learning preferences, and using new and emerging technologies to help improve confidence with computer skills. So using large print, braille, all those alternative support mechanisms that you can adapt to suit your particular learner. So I've got a quiz at the end. I've forgotten about that one. So that's go on.
Sorry, that's quite good for task 1 and 2, because it literally covers a lot of stuff.
Always have a look at what I put on here. Basically, everything that you need is on Moodle. It might have changed format or position slightly when it was redone. But it will be there. It's just a matter of having a look through there and saying, "Oh, yeah, what's that?" I'll have a look at that. An example I've done with another learner I've got on the AEC course, who sent me Morley's working for units 1, 2, 3, and 6. Well, for a start, he didn't need to do 2 because 2 wasn't required.
Yeah.
The other units that he's done, or the first unit he's done, he's written it, and I've explained this on this course on several times. It's about you and what you do, not necessarily an academic exercise. There'll be some parts of it, obviously, you've got to answer academically, but there are a lot more that you'll be able to provide documentary evidence to show that what you've done on that particular issue, and it will then just need a short explanation saying what that document is and why you put it there and using it as evidence. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, inappropriate assessor. Change for one who is occupationally competent. Now, this isn't a requirement of some awarding bodies, but quite a few awarding bodies. Initially, the engineering and manufacture and construction require any assessor who is assessing apprentices, you know, who are doing a job of work, has to be skilled in that work themselves. They can't just turn up and say, "Oh, I'm going to assess you. I don't know anything about your job, but I'm going to assess you anyway." It wouldn't really go down too well, would it?
No.
But so, yeah, you make one sure. An example of that I can give is that I went to help a company out who had some problem with their IQA company who'd cleared off and left them in a bit of a mess. And they'd signed off on some work for 2, I think they were level 4 qualifications for site managers.
Okay.
And one of the parts of the unit was that they had to manage a lift of materials from a wagon to a particular position on site, using a crane and so forth. And they had to organise that lift. And they'd done this, but both of the guys had done this on their own particular sites. And the assessor had done nothing wrong, really, other than he wasn't competent to actually say whether that was right or wrong. He got no qualification in lifting and handling of materials. Fortunately for the company, when the EQA came in from City and Guilds, as it was at the time, I knew him quite well, and he didn't know why I was doing there at first, and I had to explain it all to him. And then he picked this up and he said, "Well, what are we going to do about it?" So I said, "Well, I'm not sure really." I said, "I'll just take advice from you because, you know, you say you're the EQA." He said, I've just been thinking." So I said, "What?" He said, "You've got that qualification, haven't you?" And I went, "Oh yes, so I have." So he said, "Right, if you will go and do a professional discussion with both those 2 guys, I will accept that as evidence to complete." Because basically that's all they needed. So I volunteered for this, and it was only after I'd volunteered for it that I found out that one of them was on a site in London and the other one was on a site in deepest Cambridgeshire in the back of nowhere somewhere. So I ended up having to go out and actually do these things in the car. I had to stop overnight in one of them. But that was again just checking on, making sure that you've got the right assessor for the right job.
Yeah.
Give support, use oral questionnaire, offer training for basic skills or lack of basic skills, which we've just discussed. I usually have done in the past, referred them on for further training to actually achieve that level. You know, finding ways to communicate. One of the most important things that any assessor can do is give the candidate support and reassurance and make sure they've got the resources available to manage their qualification themselves, because technically I'm guiding you through this qualification. It's your qualification though, and the work that you produce will be yours. But again, because of the step situation where you've got the learner, the assessor, and then the IQA. I'm separated from the assessment process, but you as an assessor can determine how you're going to do the assessment and what you're going to use as evidence, provided that is the ultimately the work from the learners you've got is meeting the qualification standards. Then you've got nothing to worry about. Your report will go in to say that, and or if there are issues on it, you really put, like I've put on. I've not given you any feedback yet, so you won't have seen it. But what I do is I use review in Word, and I will put some bubbles on the side with some writing in to direct you on what's right or wrong with it. It might just say something as simple as good, that's fine, AC achieved. Other times it may say fine up to as far as it goes, but you could add such and such a thing. You know, to give it some additional support. So that's the job of the assessor, to make sure that you're giving that your learners that support, and to make sure that where they can get, tell them where they can get information from and how to use it. Yeah. Say problems on risks and remedies. Venue, resources, materials, prepare beforehand, confidentiality, understand and gain your candidate's trust. Not clear about the rules, discuss with me and other assessors. That needs actually to change. I can do it on here. So that's right. What's that? That needs to change. Everything's got to be up to date. Where's it go? I've just got rid of that. What happened then? Oh, I can't do it now. I've just been, yeah. I can't change anything on these now, unfortunately. I'll have to take it off and do it separately.
Yeah.
But it means the same thing. Literally, it was the term for IQA before was an internal verifier. But like everything, they need to change names and for whatever reason. Where it says use simulation to arrange a time to train and assess. Simulation, it will say in some qualification, is not allowed. It needs to be done as is, with no simulation whatsoever. Some qualifications will insist on that. So as the assessor, your first point of call is look at the unit specifications. Yeah. Like I mentioned earlier, that learner that sent all his work in for 4 units when he only needed to have done 3.
Yeah.
He's not read the specification for the qualification. Yeah. So the one that you're going to be assessing, you need to read what's required beforehand. Yeah. To make sure that you fully understand what the assessment must complete. There is quite a lot of information on some qualifications. There'll be specific assignments given to cover the work, or there will be what shall I say, assignments, to give the work, sorry, or there may be what's the word I was looking for? I can't remember the name of it now. It means basically stuff that needs to be in there. It will give the awarding body will put that in. Indicative content, that was the word I was looking for. And if you could quickly read through that and see, make a note of what needs to be there. And then when you go and look at the work, if that is there, you're then just looking at the content and whether it's sufficient or not, rather than going through it and saying, oh, well, that's not in, and that's not in, and that's not in, or I need to send that back. And it saves you a lot of time as the assessor then, because you don't start reading through tons of stuff when you know pieces that should be there are actually missing. We're on a web list as well. On there. So are there any other issues that you've got there that you weren't sure about?
I'm just carrying on with the tasks, to be honest. I'm just doing them. Next week I'm not in because I've got a meeting next week.
Right.
So I won't be in the session, but I'm going to just carry on with getting the assessments done and trying to complete unit 1 at least.
Well, actually, if you're doing your assessments, the evidence that you are completing those assessments, the documents that you produce for those, you can refer to in your unit 1 answers.
Yeah, for unit 3.
Yeah,
I could use the 2 students. So I've got Julia and I've got someone called Summit, and one's a level 5 and one's a level 3.
Yeah, that's fine. Doesn't matter. It's better if it is, actually.
Yeah.
What they say is that 2 different qualifications are best, but if you can't do that, the same qualification but a different unit, that's what the recommendation is. This is what I said about reading through what you have to do before.
And we've got to bear in mind that level 3 is more descriptive than level 5 as well. You know, where you'd probably need more critical analysis and stuff.
Analysis and stuff like that. Yeah. Another one I picked.
Yeah.
Go on.
Sorry, no, it's okay. Go on, carry on, Philip.
No, I picked up something else this afternoon that I would never have been sure of, but I looked it up and I'm right. A summary should not contain any references.
Yeah.
It shouldn't contain anything at all from research. It should be just in your own words. It needn't be very long, but it should be just in your own words with regard to the subject. That was something that I learned this afternoon while I was looking at something that I hadn't checked before. In actual fact, one of his summaries did contain 1 reference, but it didn't really matter that. The rest of it was his own words, so I was happy with that. Yeah. Again, it's getting to, as you get more into assessment and you look at different qualifications at different levels, you begin to gain it's experience, yes, but you begin to gain a bit of nous for what you can do and what you can't do. How to say, well, that's more or less there, but it could have done with that, but it's not. It is actually achieving the qualification, and then you can say, you can put that in. I'm passing this. This is okay, but for future, you need to look at doing such and such a thing or elaborating more. Yeah.
I actually do that on the degree course because we follow Bolton's regulations for level 4, 5 and 6. And if there's something that, because we write the papers ourselves, so we mark the papers, then it goes to an external examiner. So the issue is it's always good to give constructive feedback, even if they've got a first, even if they've got 70, they've obviously, the mark is out of 100. So they've obviously got, it's very well written and analysis, but then you could have included this. So it kind of identifies that.
And that's why the indicative content is useful at the lower levels. Well, at any level, really. But if your awarding body has given you some direction as to what they need to see, then it does make it easy for you as an assessor, because it can then, well, with the amount of work we have to do as an assessor, it means that it cuts the time down. You don't have to. You're not wasting time doing stuff that you don't need to do because the work isn't meeting the standard, and you can just put some formative feedback in saying why it's not meeting and what you need to do to actually improve it.
It's similar to the external examiner stuff that I do for Birmingham, to follow that indicative content. And it's very similar to different institutions. They all work in a similar kind of way.
Well, this is it. I hate to say this while being on record, but universities do tend to get away with a lot more than we can. What we can do and what we can't do is very stipulated, and we have to pretty well stick to that. And that's why it's important to have the IQA on following on from there. I've just done actually today. I've completed it today. I've been at it for 2 weeks. We got 54 students on level 3 business, and they'd done all the 4 units, and I was trying to find an easy way to make sure that we could check, you know, whether the work. I know it was over 5 assessors as well, 5 different assessors. So basically, I selected 2 units and put them into groups A and B, and there was probably about half a dozen, 7 at the most in one group for each assessor, and then I looked at all that unit for all those learners on the different assessors, and it showed then whether the assessment or the assessors were pretty well standardising their assessment across the learners. And I then used another group B and picked another unit and did the same with that one. So I only had to look at 2 units for all the qualifications, just to check, that it was meeting the standard. Because actually it was only a pass on that, so it was, less onerous. That allowed me then to make less reports out, which speeded the thing up. But all the work had been looked at. That was the main thing. So yeah, there were methods of quality assuring the work as well, to make sure that you're covering as much as possible. Obviously, the best will in the world, certain things will get through sometimes, and the EQA may pick one out and say, that's a bit brief, and you'll go back and look at it and think, yeah, you're right. Or some, once on occasion I've looked at that and somebody said that, and I said, well, if you look a bit further down the unit, they've covered part of that in a different area. Maybe I should have told them to shift it, but provided the work was there, I wasn't happy. But again, the other thing is making sure that your learners have titled everything properly. So they've put learning objective 1, and they've written what learning objective 1 is before they've started to, and then let's say 1.1 underneath it. And again, that line will be exactly as it's printed in the book, because students tend to want to, for some reason, ignore what's written down, write a version of it from themselves, and miss the command verb off, usually. And then, it then doesn't remind them what they're supposed to be doing. And you'll read through the work, and basically there's nothing wrong with it, other than it's not what was being asked for. And it could be something as simple as changing it to first person from third person.
Interesting.
So it's a personal account rather than a general one. But again, that will then meet what the actual criteria are asking for. Not what they've decided to add for it.
What I'm going to try and do is get these assessments marked, but also I'm going to try and complete the rest, some of them, the tasks, and send you them via UK Varsity website. Is that okay, through that email rather than doing through the UK Learner one?
Send it straight to me. That's the quickest way.
I'll send it straight to you, and then you can just guide me on what I need to do.
Just bang those straight to me after we close now. I will. I'll follow that up tomorrow. What day is it tomorrow? Thursday. I'm out till after dinner.
No, it's
I'll be in tomorrow afternoon.
It's Tuesday.
I'll get
tomorrow,
those done. I'll get those done for you tomorrow afternoon.
No, I'll get them sent to you tomorrow morning and get them all done, and then I'll send them to you this week.
Okay. That's smashing. Anything else you need?
No, that if I'm stuck, I'll email you. I think that's probably the best way to go around it.
I'll ask you to send me a text either.
I'll send you a text then.
I've usually got my phone with me.
I was just looking for some external examiners position if they come up, if you know anyone, because mine's due to end at Birmingham.
Right.
So if you know anyone that needs anyone to do the EE position, you know, I've done it for 4 years with Birmingham.
Send me your details. Send me your details on that, and I'll have a look.
Yeah, because I don't mind doing it because I've done a lot of assessments and stuff like that.
Well, the main problem with me is now that all the people that I put you onto are probably retired.
Yeah. Oh, it's all right. Don't worry. Even them people are useful sometimes as well. The retired ones.
Well, yeah. I mean, most of the people that I dealt with, you know, when I was working full time, are similar age to me, or you know, maybe slightly younger, but you know, they're all well in their 70s now. So basically,
if you hear of anything or anything.
Sorry?
If you hear of anything, at least you can keep me in mind, can't you?
Yeah. Put it,
so
you
what
know,
I'll do,
when you send me the stuff, put on your email what you actually do and what you're looking for, and I'll look at it from there. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And
Okay.
and I will see you not next week because I've got like a black tie event with Solicitors Regulation Authority.
You know, right.
Yeah, with the SRA.
Yeah.
So that's at Royal Armouries next week. Yeah. Because I work for a project. I'm a chair for a domestic